everyone. Welcome back to the Super Reality Fam podcast. I'm Pat, joined by always Luke and JC. Y'all, how you doing?
Doing great. Just surviving quarantine.
Surviving quarantine. We got our quarantine stashes geared and ready.
Oh man.
I tried. Stash.
JC's mustache is a little absent, but it's okay.
Looking 7 weeks.
It's not absent. It's there.
So my hair's growing back.
Right. That is true.
Because when we started this, I had hair.
It's back.
It's back.
It's returned from the edge.
Yeah. It's about to win after only playing for 13 days.
So y'all, I definitely want to get into that at the end of things.
Yes.
So remind me.
Okay, sounds good.
So we had a 2-hour episode. We're gonna recap on this fine early week podcast. Y'all, how'd you like the episode in general?
I thought it was okay. I just feel like these two booths were kind of like we could see them coming. If you're Sarah and Tony, I feel like these are the two booths that probably need to happen at this point. If you're running the field. So it was a little disappointing because I don't feel like we got to see Sarah and Tony struggle, which is what I was hoping to see in this 2-hour episode. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I think it was an episode like full of great character moments. So that aspect I appreciated.
I agree. Yeah, and it's definitely been a whirlwind, and I feel like it's finally, the dust is starting to settle. There's definitely paths to the end. But at the same time, I feel like that edge returnee is really going to play a big part in what's going to happen, especially for Sarah and Tony. I mean, we can go scene by scene if you guys want, or like, I guess scene by scene, not literally frame by frame, but just like go through the episodes. A lot of content, but at the same time, for a 2-hour episode, not like the most we could have gotten, but still a lot of jam-packed stuff for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, just starting it off, I honestly think this was one of the most impactful scenes of the first hour is, Michelle comes back and obviously she's super frustrated. She talks about, the bringing the butter knife to a gunfight, which I really enjoyed. But what I think impacted this episode the most was Jeremy gave her back the 50-50 coin. And in confessional, he was saying, I don't want my game to depend on a coin flip. Like, that's not how I play. I think this was a huge mistake from Jeremy just because you didn't really see Michelle's name come up in this first hour because she has the 50-50 coin. And you don't want to vote out somebody if there's a 50% chance that they're going to be safe. And then, you don't know where their vote is going. They could be going to you. So I really think that even though Jeremy doesn't want the coin flip to happen for his own safety, it's just the threat of that's more powerful than the advantage itself.
And from there, it's like he goes from having a 50% chance of winning the game to pulling a Cass McQuillan and having a 0% chance of winning the game because when he can't even flip the coin. And I just rewatched the episode right before getting on. That's why it's so fresh in my head. So knowing in hindsight what's going to happen, it's definitely cyclical. But we're seeing him literally saying, I don't need this. But like you said, it could have been something that would have pushed him over the edge. And at the end, which just jumping to the tribal council for like 1 sec, he is basically like not begging, but begging with his eyes and his body language for this 50-50, which is a great scene, but it's contradicting for that one development of the episode, especially that plot point of Jeremy. But it doesn't make him look bad. It just makes Michelle look even better for playing it and playing it for herself.
So we'll get into the dynamics of the coin at tribal, of course, but at this point in time, I actually was the writing was on the wall for Jeremy going into the episode as it was, but as soon as he said that, it was definitely one of those foreshadowing moments. They put that in there specifically because, hey, nope, not what you think, Jeremy, bye. Mm-hmm. How much, at this point in time, how much do you think Jeremy was aware he was not as safe as he thought he was?
It's hard to say. He definitely had agency for a lot of, as much as he was on the bottom for a lot of the game, he also, like, in this merge was like starting to build a way in. And I don't know if it was like Kim getting out and that was one too many targets that like were out in front of him that were deleted from his path. But I just think like he really needed to get Nick on his side, and Nick really needed to vote with them. And it's just almost like Nick just like did not want to do that for whatever reason that he saw. And we even see Nick, again, foreshadowing, but going forward in the episode, we see Nick get like the dodo music when he comes back from camp and is explaining like, oh, I messed up, but I'm going to make it right to Michelle. And it's like, bro, all you had to do was vote not for Jeremy, and you would still have Jeremy, a huge shield in front of you, and you would have a path to the end. And it's like he shot himself in the foot. So it's like hard to say. It's like almost like he lost his agency in the round.
Yeah, and I would say it was bad from Nick's point of view, but even if Jeremy has Nick in that vote, like if they're not doing a split vote, then it's only still like 3 out of 7. Like it's only Jeremy, Nick, and Michelle versus the field. I really think that Jeremy trusted Tony too much, and maybe trust is a strong word. Like I don't even know like if he really trusted Tony, but I really feel like so much of this end game is going back to the Sophie vote, where like that is where Jeremy started trusting Tony more than like Kim and Denise. Because they voted against him in that tribal council, and that's why that move was so masterful on Tony's part. Is he really had the trust of almost everybody in the game. Like even the people like Ben and Sarah that were mad at him are obviously now working with him again. But then he also got some of the outsiders to trust him.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I feel like I can't blame like Jeremy too much for trusting Tony, but like you have to remember this is Tony Vlachos. Like he just flipped on his alliance vote out Sophie. So why wouldn't he flip on his alliance vote out you? And this was the whole like theme of Kageyana is like, why do people keep trusting this guy that's flipping so many times? But like that's why he's Tony Vlachos and why he's one of the greatest players of all time is because like only he can get away with that.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because he's kind of blown up his strategy in the sense that he's not overplaying, he's not doing crazy stuff. But we start seeing that a couple of rounds ago that he's bringing back the old Tony. But for some reason, he is just so deeply embedded in that tribe, even the merge tribe and that group and the voting cluster of him, Ben, and Tony, him, Ben, and Sarah is so embedded in the narrative of the season at this point. And even on a rewatch, multiple times we see Ben say, I want to go to the end with Tony and Sarah. Sarah say the same thing. Tony say the same thing. And it goes even explicitly Tony and Sarah saying it, and Ben just saying he wouldn't vote Sarah and Tony out, which is an even more complex way of saying that I want to go to the end with them. And it's almost affirmed by, later on when Nick tries to say, vote Ben out. He will win fire. Tony's almost like giving him like an FU because he's like, I will still beat Ben. It's enticing. It's definitely enticing.
Yeah. Something in Jeremy's defense is Nick was the original target this round. I really do think if Nick would not have won immunity, this was probably the best choice for Tony and Sarah to send home. Tony says in the beginning of the episode, if Jeremy goes home, that like the hyenas are going to come out and attack us. And I was kind of waiting for that in the second hour because there was such strong foreshadowing in the first hour, and that it didn't ultimately happen. But, Jeremy did have Nick as a target ahead of him. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way because I loved in that first hour Sarah doing that manipulation of Ben. And this is what we don't see of why Sarah Lucina's game is so great is because it's sometimes hard to show these incredibly great like social strategic moments. But it was like such a great segment of like Sarah went with the goal of trying to get Ben to keep Jeremy and vote out Nick, even though Ben should not be doing that whatsoever. And then, we just see Sarah just like in a matter of seconds, seemingly in the edit, just completely flip Ben, and Ben thinks it's his idea to go after Nick instead of Jeremy. So I just really love that moment from Sarah.
And you both know, and Cassie knows too, I'm a Sarah convert. Like, I really did not think of Sarah as, I knew she was a good player, but I just couldn't see how her social game would be good. And now I'm, like, genuinely rooting for her or Tony to win. Because I seriously think that she's played a masterful game. He's played, like, maybe, like, one tippy toe ahead of her. But still, like, they are running this shit. And they have been. They have been for weeks. It's incredible that they still get this leash to play when Sarah was the number one threat, like on the people's writing down that first time with EW, and Tony is Tony, and they still are here. The Lions are still here, and it's hard for me to gauge, like, the Lions versus Hyena talk, I think was just because Tony and Sarah get so deep in the game, and they are those Lions picking off the Hyenas. It's insane to watch.
Yeah, we saw the last true Lion other than those two go tonight in Jeremy. I mean, Ben is like what is it, like a hyena in lion's clothing or something like that? Like, yeah. I don't know what to say. Like, he thinks he's a lion, but he's actually a hyena. It's like, yeah. Anyways, so going into
there's a fun parallel.
Go
There's a
ahead.
fun parallel to the Genius season 3. It might be season 4. There's a game they play called the Food Chain game, and I'm
Oh
loving the
yeah.
I'm loving the hyena and lion talk because in that game, the lion and the hyena are both animals that you can be, and the lion is a step above the hyenas, and the lion has to eat every round of the food chain game, and the hyena I think gets one pass. They can starve one time.
Right.
But what it comes down to is you want any number of animals can win. Um, it's not an exclusive winner, but you want to force the the lion on their own any one of the rounds because then they starve to death, and then the hyena can win. The hyena cannot win if the lion wins.
Right. And that's
Hey, yeah, that was a good game. That was like one of the more like complex games in the Genius. I feel like they alternate between like mind-numbingly simple games and like really kind of like complex games that have like lots of different rules. But
It
yeah, I
was the
definitely remember
first
that.
episode of
'Cause I
its
think
season, I
they did
think.
it in season. Yeah, I remember. I know they did it in season 1 because that's the only season I've watched. But yeah,
it makes sense too for just the logistics of like what they thought would happen in a perfect vacuum. Even if the Genius wasn't like a well executed show, they want the big person or target, even though it's just like a given title, to be picked off. And in Survivor, it's the same thing. Like you never like it's like you always hear that analogy. It's like musical chairs, and when the music stops, like you have to be closest to a chair, or you're out. But in this case, it's like the same thing. Plus, you don't want to be too intertwined with the social cues and social stigma of yourself with everyone left in the game. You don't want to be that person who is friends with everyone or left with the most allies or played a masterful game like Kim, Jeremy, and Tony. You want to be like Sarah, who played, I am now a convert, I can say, played a fantastic social strategic game and physical game, but she's for some reason also not perceived. So I'm curious to see what happens. Again, I'm curious to see who comes back from Edge, which we'll get into towards the end. And we'll see. We'll see what those relationships pan out for her.
yeah. So I'm next. I was just thinking the immunity challenge was next, and I know we previewed this a little bit last week where they have to like throw the ball up into a ramp and then like go to the other end and catch it. And I felt so bad for Michelle during this challenge. She was just like I could tell even during the challenge, like she was just so frustrated. And I was just like, oh, Michelle, I feel you. Just like last week, I was saying I related to Adam when he couldn't do like the coconut runs. He's like, knows
Yes.
he's not going to win. I'm like, this week I was Michelle, like not being able to like get to the end to catch the ball.
I
If she'd been voted out, they would have done a Suri moment.
Yeah.
That she would have gotten a Suri edited if she'd been voted out there, and that's how I knew she wasn't getting voted out because I mean
yeah.
that challenge brought her to tears. And in a segment I like to call corrections, this challenge was done in U.S. It was done in One World.
One
There you
world.
go.
It was done
It
in
missed
One
out.
World. And
Kim
I
did
said it
this.
was from Australian because I couldn't remember what season it was from last week.
Huh.
So
I wonder if
It's-
this is one of the ones.
it's
that
also
Kim-
in Australian.
Did Kim win this one? Do you know?
I
I feel
have
like she's
Google.
built for this.
I mean,
Google.
she won 4 immunities her season, and the only one I remember is when they were hanging on like something over the water. That's the only one I remember her for sure winning.
The challenge is called
but-
Running Down a Dream.
Okay.
Most
Yeah,
of
I
the
like that
challenges are named after songs, so
I like that
I'm
they
sure
had,
y'all can figure out what song that is.
Wait, what was it called? What's
it
the name of
classic?
the challenge?
Running down a dream, devil will come to me.
I love Jeff Probst. That's just like
I
love of
can't
classic rock.
I wonder if it's him or like whoever makes the challenges.
Like,
No, it's
I feel
definitely
like
the
there's-
challenge producer. It's got to
Yeah.
be the
Yeah,
challenge
yeah.
producer.
I wonder who that is. We should get him on.
Is
Hey,
not
Lil-
Ben Blackman? Is he the challenge producer or is he the producer of something else? I don't know other people's titles. But
What was the guy's name again?
Matt Ben Blackman? He's the producer of something,
Oh,
but I don't know what.
No, I'm totally wrong. I'm super doubly wrong. The the Wikipedia says it debuted in Edge of Extinction, not in One World.
Which is
Huh.
even
Somebody-
weird.
Somebody in my college group chat told me it was from One World, and I didn't look it up because I've been really busy.
I feel
Um,
like, not to throw shit, I like the idea of War Dog, but I feel like he ate shit in this challenge. That's what I would remember, like him trying to do it.
Oh well, I mean that
Gavin-
was like the running joke of the season that like War Dog selected everything.
Yeah.
Even though he's like
Gavin,
a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
Gavin
won
won
the
it.
challenge.
Yeah. Oh, and Nick won it this time, and they're like the same person.
And they're the same person.
No, wait. Was it Gavin they were comparing him to? I thought it was
Donathan.
Donathan.
Jonathan.
I think
Well, yeah,
Donathan's from
because,
West Virginia.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Jonathan's from Eastern Kentucky.
Eastern Kentucky? Okay.
Yeah. Which,
Okay.
I mean, like him and Donathan are from the same neck of the woods. Or no, I guess Nick is more like south. I used to live in Kentucky. I know that Donathan is Eastern, and I think Nick is more like southeastern, but I'm not 100% sure.
And Elaine's
But
from
fun
the same
fact,
part.
I would. So I moved from Louisville, Kentucky to Asheville, North Carolina, and like on the drive between, I passed through like Nick Wilson's hometown, and there's like a sign that says like "Home of Nick Wilson, winner of David versus Goliath."
Oh my god.
And I have a picture by it. It's like in the middle of the, not in the middle of the night, but it's like
You're
dark
like-
out. And I like took a picture by this highway sign, like such a dork. But yeah,
I'll put it on my road trip pinboard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just stop through Kentucky for that.
No, and it was so I'm such a dork. Like I stopped specifically to get gas in that town because I'm like, oh my gosh, like what if Nick Wilson's at the gas station?
I don't blame
And
you
of
at
course
all.
he wasn't, but it was yeah.
You gotta
so
take that
stupid.
risk.
Yeah.
I mean, how small a town is it? Like, I don't know. You had like a % chance.
I don't know, like less than like probably 5,000, but
Oh damn. Okay.
but I don't even know if he like lives in that specific town because it's like people usually refer to it in the county. But anyways,
Right.
yeah, this immunity challenge like had a large slide puzzle, which I feel like we don't get very much. Like Survivor used to be all about the slide puzzles, and I don't know, it's kind of refreshing to see it like a large slide puzzle like that.
Yeah.
So I think they use a slide puzzle I think they've used a slide puzzle once a season for at least, I don't know, for like a decade. Slide puzzles are your bread and butter puzzle. And I think it's the secret scene we actually get Ben talking about how he's practiced a slide puzzle on an app. And something that I really want to bring up for anybody at home who's trying to apply is look up the algorithm. Don't practice on an app. Look up how to do it.
Right, that's what I've done too. Yeah,
It is not hard to learn. Honestly,
Me taking notes. I'm just like I have a pen.
no, honestly, you can teach yourself the algorithm and just be able to go do it. But if you don't figure it out in the first couple of tries, if you don't get to the point where you're like, okay, I could program this figuratively, then yeah, look up the algorithm. It's super, super easy. And the thing most people get caught on is in the bottom, if it's a 4x4 or a 5x5, you'll have a bottom 6 and like 2 of them are flipped, and it's really easy. It's basically over, up, over, down. I'd have to physically show you. I can't talk it out.
yeah, it's hard to talk about slide puzzles on a podcast.
Okay, I've mentioned the challenge panel I did at AwesomeCon before, but I think Kendall and I spent like 10 minutes of our 50-minute panel talking about slide puzzles.
Audio listeners, turn it up.
Sorry.
I'm interested. I'm like now. I didn't even think of an algorithm. I'm so English major that I'm like I would just do it like analytically.
Yeah, no, I've definitely like looked up how to do slide puzzles before I've gone to play like live Survivor games, and then of course like I didn't encounter one either time I played. Like I made it all the way to Final 3 in the first live game I played in, and like the last immunity challenge was like a 3-part immunity challenge, and they only had a slide puzzle in the last part. So like literally the very last part of the very last challenge had a slide puzzle, and I was like eliminated in the round before that. It was like, no, I was prepared for this.
It's like they know that everyone prepares for slide puzzles, so they're like put at the very end. Like
Yeah, so only like 2 people out of the 13 that were in the game got to actually do the slide puzzle. But it's okay. I don't dwell on it anymore, obviously.
You can't prep for word puzzles like you can for slide puzzles, and physical puzzles. You can do physical puzzles all day, but like it's not something that has a set solution. They can change things up. A slide puzzle has a set solution. It has a finite number of moves.
Yeah, I'll never forget Metamorphosis. That was like the time I was like most mind blown by like I don't know, like a word challenge at Survivor. I played lots of bananagrams that I would have not gotten. And I mean, I feel like that took like 45 minutes. And like freaking Haley Ford of all people was the one that got it right.
Jeff.
I forgot that even existed. And I'm supposed to be the challenge one.
Yeah, so they get back to camp, and I was cracking up at like Ben is trying to like play Michelle and Jeremy against each other, and like Ben, this cracked me up so hard. Is like Ben keeps telling Michelle like, "Watch, Jeremy is gonna ask you for the coin," and Michelle's like, "Oh, I'm gonna play it for myself," and Ben's like, "Well, he's gonna ask you." "Well, I'm playing it for myself," and this happens like 5 times in a row. With Ben like telling her, "Well, you know that he's shady and he's gonna try and get it from you," and Michelle's like, "But I'm not going to give it to him." And this just like happens over and over. Yes. It's so funny.
It's like she has a confessional where she says, "Oh, and of course Ben is telling him to go get the coin from me."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it was one of the just like most transparent ploys I've ever seen.
I'm just like, I don't know if you guys know, and I kind of forget from his first season, but I you know, again, in interest of them, it's always, whenever I talk shit about them, I'm talking shit about their characters. I think all these people are great people, seriously, and I think it's awful that our community spreads, not us, but people spread such hate. But for Ben, let's talk about Ben. When he came in, is he a super fan of Survivor? Like, at this point, I assume they're all, like, pretty fan-y. Like, not necessarily, like, Adam level or Nick level, but, like, was he a fan before? Like, I just get confused with some of the things he does that I'm like, maybe he's really, I said it last week as a joke, I feel like he's literally just hangry.
I think he's a fan. I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's like, you know, like a Ryan Ulrich from this season who's like, you know, a Survivor super fan or anything like that. But I feel like he's seen almost every season and like coming into Triple H. And I'm sure since then, to prepare for Winners at War, surely he watched the seasons he hadn't before or like revisited some. But I really think that it's just the difference of playing against first-time players against, you know, versus returnees is like, it's night and day. And not only are you playing against returnees, but you're playing against winners. You know, Ben did a really great job in his season of like being the double agent. Like, people forget that he was like the mole for his alliance to like keep in good with Chrissy and Ryan and like find out what Chrissy and Ryan are saying. And then he'd report back to his actual alliance, and it was effective. Like he did it well. But like, you're not going to be able to get things past winners. And especially, like, Jeremy and Michelle are super tight. You think that they're not going to just immediately tell each other what you told them? Like, why would they trust you? Especially Jeremy, who hates Ben.
Right.
So, or I mean, I don't even know if Jeremy hates them, but like Ben hates Jeremy, and they were obviously feuding. So it was just like, do you really think that would work? And like Ben and Michelle aren't even like surprised, like when they tell each other something like, "Oh my gosh, Ben was playing us against you." Jeremy was just like, "Yeah, did you see what he was trying to do?" Like.
It's true, though. And I feel like that's a good point. Everyone is trying to, like, we've seen that all season, you know, Boston Rob trying to bring back the buddy system, or every, like, person, Sandra trying to do, like, anyone but me, but then eventually she has to get led down to a name, and it blows up in her face, too, which sucks, because she's playing with winners, too. But that's a good point. Like, Ben was that double agent person, so he's trying to do that here. That makes sense. So that's true. He's definitely watched Survivor, but he's, again, probably just trying to play, like, his season. It does make sense. I just couldn't help but laugh. Like, Ben is so... I dislike Sarah and Ben coming into the season. I don't dislike either of them, obviously as people, just as their characters. But I do like them both now, just for different reasons. But I think Ben is so entertaining, genuinely so, like, unintentionally entertaining, and it's so fun to watch.
With very few exceptions, Rudy being my favorite of all. But I never liked the military character.
Yeah.
It's not a story I like being shoved down my throat. It's if the person plays up their military characteristic, I tend not to like them. And if they don't play up the characteristic, then the edit tries to like make them mention it, and it always leaves a sour taste in my mouth. But that might just be because the area I live in is very, very heavily military. And the people that we bring into the area from other states, I don't want to get super political, but like the younger ones really like to shove the fact that they're military, that they're Navy, that they're this, that, the other down your throat. And the older ones are actually a delight to get along with. People that have been doing it as a lifetime career, wonderful. But So maybe I'm going into looking at Ben with this huge chip on my shoulder because he's the military guy. That's what he is. That's who he is. And I don't want to give the wrong impression. Like I'm thankful for his service. I understand he went through hell. I understand he's had a rough time. And that's not where I'm not trying to attack him for the character type. It's really hard to like somebody who's playing that character type.
Yeah, it comes off as, for him, at least what the editors are giving us, it's very one-dimensional. But there are flashes in the pan. Like, I know, like, I agree with your point too. And I think, like, even like when I was just rewatching today the episode, like Michelle's like literally like starting to bawl her eyes out, and Ben like puts her arm, like he like doesn't even put his arm around her. He kind of just leans over to put his head on her shoulder, and she like collapses into his arms like for a side hug. That's like really emotional. And I wish we just got more of that in the edit of Ben being like a emotionally smart dude, because like he's kind of coming off as a villain, but I think the best thing a villain in Survivor can be is like complex and kind of like morally gray. So I wish we got that from Ben.
Yeah, and just in regards to like the military thing, I think in general, the reason why I don't like them, or not that I don't like them, but that I don't root for them, is their mindset is so like anti what I think about Survivor. Like usually the military people come in to play a very like loyal, straightforward game, and like anybody who is trying to like lie or backstab, like that does not work for them. Like they do not want the liars and backstabbers in the game, and like that's what Survivor is, dude. Like, and I think Ben learned that on his first season, but I don't think that he came into Triple H wanting to play deceptively. Like, I think that he came in wanting to be like very straight-laced, full of integrity. And I think that's kind of how he was playing up until, I don't even remember the specific circumstance that he kind of like felt betrayed, but like he was going to get voted out and he played the idol and all that.
Yep.
But I think that he is, a little bit kind of going back to that now, where like he's found Tony and Sarah. So he's going to stick to them till the end. No lying, backstabbing needed. Like those are his people. It's done. Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of, it's a weird, the comparison only comes to mind because of Game Changers, but it reminds me a lot of Troyzan, because Troyzan played a very fiery game in One World and was very like out there and very like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do even if it blows me in the foot, and it did. And he comes back in Game Changers, and he's kind of neutered. And I don't want to say that edit's the same because Troyzan's very invisible. But in the terms of the Tony, Sarah, Ben 2.0 versus like Troyzan 2.0, Culpepper, and Sarah, like it's almost like Sarah from Game Changers and Tony are kind of paralleled. Sarah's like in that Brad spot where like maybe she'll get some recognition, but maybe she should have gotten more. And then Troyzan equals Ben, because Troyzan was like a dude that people fucked with, but the edit didn't show us anything, or is showing us like some kind of like spite towards him. And I think they didn't show us Adam not liking him for a reason. I feel like Adam's gonna be like, and Jeremy especially, are gonna be like, dude, how's Game gonna respect Game when you didn't respect me when I was in the game? So I think that might come back to bite him. But again, Ben has shown me that he's an entertaining dude regardless, and I'm glad that he changed my mind on that.
Yeah. So we do kind of
orchestrate. If he can orchestrate himself, Michelle, and potentially the Edge Returner. The Edge Returner is a very fun wild card right now. Again, I'll really dig into that later. But if he can orchestrate himself with Michelle and the Edge Returner, he can make a case for himself. He can still win the game. He's not out yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
I would
very
say based on positioning, that's true. I just don't think based on the edit that's true. Like, I don't think that based on the edit he's getting that he can win. But I do get what you're saying. Like, if he is out there, like if this was happening in real time and he was out there right now, like he could have a chance of winning the game. He would just need to like majorly, completely change his whole mindset of what is happening. Like he's just, everything we're getting told is that like he is not going to betray Tony and Sarah. Yeah. So we do get kind of Jeremy going to Tony and Nick and saying us three and Michelle vote out Ben. So he proposes that. And obviously Nick says yes to everything because he's Nick. So he didn't disagree. And then, Tony kind of agrees too. But in reality, they ended up dictating. Tony is the one that takes charge of the vote and says it's going to be a 3-2 split on Jeremy and Michelle. But what him and Sarah figure out is that if Nick flips his vote, then it would be a 3-2-2 voting out Ben. Or whoever those three want to put their votes on. So Nick really was in the power spot. And I don't know if you guys agree, but I really do think that like this was not a good move for Nick. particularly because
he screams all
it
over.
seems like everybody is aware of the fact that Tony, Sarah, and Ben are a 3, and Denise is also really close to Ben. So you really have to get out somebody in that 4. And really, it should be too late because it would be 4-3 in the scenario of those 4 have control. But if they're splitting the vote, this is like an opening that Nick shouldn't have even had, that he now has to take a shot. And Nick has played a really good game, in my opinion, this season that we just haven't necessarily been shown all of. But at the same time, he hasn't had a signature move. And I feel like this was just like such a golden opportunity that just fell in his lap to like, this is my move. Like, this is me asserting myself in the game. I'm not just a follower. I'm not just a yes man, because that's what he's been. And ultimately, obviously, he goes. And so it's easy to say in hindsight that it was a mistake. But
yeah,
I think it was a mistake.
Yep.
So I don't think this one even falls as the hindsight knowing it was a mistake, because he was aware in between it happening and himself being voted out. So it's not like I mean, it still is hindsight. It still is in the past. The action has been taken, but he's become aware of it before it truly bites him.
Right.
So like immediate awareness, which is definitely a positive trait for a winner.
Yep. It's definitely a case of like, it's almost like, again, what we were saying, like we're thinking that some people are playing, not like how we don't think Ben is necessarily out game wise, but edit wise, we're like, oh shit, he definitely has to be out. It's one of those things with Nick where it's like, yeah, this might have not been the best move, but it's like he's definitely made some good social strategic moves, definitely some bad ones too that we've seen more of. But the edit was just such that we didn't see Nick for like the pre-merge until like the tribe split into 3, and then the only reason we were seeing him now is because he's making mistakes. So I mean, it sucks for me at least, because I think Nick was my last person in that initial draft we did have.
Wow.
But like separately, I also like really liked David versus Goliath. I tell people that's like my favorite newbie season because I just love David versus Goliath. I just love the character development, and Nick for me was a very fulfilling winner for that. To see him go out like this, it's upsetting, but I also feel like he doesn't really have a shot to come back in because he doesn't have any tokens, so it's a whole thing.
Yeah. It's super weird because his edit has, like, so many times he has mentioned getting to day 39. It's like, I'm just playing to get to the end. Like, I'm playing to get to day 39. Like, there were a lot of confessionals that are very typical of, like, a losing finalist.
Right.
Which based on the amount of screen time he got, I didn't necessarily think that he would make it that far. But it's just so weird that, I don't know if the editors are purposely trying to throw us off, that, like, they wanted us to think Nick was getting to the end because they know that people invented things like Edgic to like determine who's getting what placement. So I think maybe that was just like a nod from the editors to be like, haha, I fooled you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really loved this tribal council because they talked about something that they don't ever talk about on Survivor, which is like the PTSD that people have from the game. And I just find that endlessly fascinating of how all of these people have basically said like, yeah, when I go back to my real life, I was not right in the head. And Jeremy says, like, for him, it was 3 months of him, like, not being able to trust people, him, like, having his guard up, him, having anxiety, whatever. And obviously Michelle said that she couldn't trust people to give her directions to the bar or something like that. Iconic.
How do you feel playing your live games?
Yes, I was supposed to say,
how do you feel
too.
coming back from your live games?
Yeah, that's interesting because I was thinking about that. I didn't want to be that person that talks about their live games things that I already do. I wouldn't say that it's like trust issues when I get back because trusting people for 5 days isn't like trusting them for 39 days. And obviously I'm not like starving or like in any sort of danger or anything like that. But what I will say is like it gives you like depression and anxiety. Like if you are super into the game and you are disappointed with the outcome, you will just spend so much time replaying what you could do wrong. Like every single thing that like, oh, like I should have done that. I should have trusted this person more. Or like, I played way too hard. I should have held back. Or I didn't play hard enough and I should have played harder because now I regret like, not doing anything in the game. And like, I've experienced all of those. But it's obvious. Yeah, I don't like have problems like trusting people afterwards. If anything, I like I just want to talk to like my family or like somebody that I like, can just be real with, I guess.
And even after 5 days, you feel that. So that's like you times that by 8 and you're starving and you like are on national TV. Like it's insane to think about, because I've also felt minorly those things from literally playing orgs. Like if you get really
Yeah.
into something,
Mhm.
regardless of what it is, like online game, live game, or anything, you will feel the repercussions of that mentally. And it's
Yeah.
scary to think about. And these people, like, that's like, honestly, like I would love to go on Survivor, but at the same time, like, it scares me because I'm like, what would happen if something like humiliating happened, you know? And you have to
Yeah.
live with that.
Like if you're Eric Reichenbach and
Like,
they show a
yeah.
clip of you giving up immunity for like every single year for the rest of your life.
Such a
I
good
mean, that
guy,
sucks.
though.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, Eric came back and almost won.
He did.
Without that medevac, Eric had a solid winning potential.
Yeah, it sucks. And it's
I
like,
can't wait to see him a third time.
Fans versus favorites 3.
JC, don't even.
No?
I'm ready for Eric Reichenbach 3.0.
Wait, what? I'm confused.
I'm not ready for an Eric Reichenbach return.
Okay. I won't put that into the air again.
Okay. Great. Better make sure it doesn't happen. No, but I was thinking in this episode about like Denise as a therapist and like the whole endure, let go thing.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is her realizing that like putting her whole entire life into the game is like not necessarily the best thing for her mentally. And like, I have conflicting feelings because like I want her to play her heart out and I want her to play with everything she has, but like she is a mature woman who is obviously a mental health professional, and like if she is making the decision, I feel like, to not make the game her whole life, like she is making the conscious decision to like, you know, if things don't work out the way I want them to, I'm willing to, you know, let go is the term she uses, of like just like letting things happen.
Yep.
And she did get the tattoos.
She did.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And you can kind of tell.
Wrists.
Like going out of like last week, there was like, I thought, significant burnout. There was significant burnout in these people, and you could tell that like Denise put her hand in Jeremy's face, someone she had been like an ally with for like weeks at this point, like in real life, and was just like, I'm done talking to you. And you can just like tell at that moment, like her face sunk and she was like, oh fuck, like I really just did that. And I feel like the reality of the situation starts, I think it started to hit them this week, and I feel like I was able to be more immersed this week because they seemed like they realized they were playing a game and they were trying to be entertaining but not trying to be hurtful. Most of them were. It's nice to see that they're back on that like kind of game body wave, but also like realizing we are people, we are humans, we're gonna be on TV.
I mean,
on
and
top
just
of that,
since we're on the
definitely go for it.
I was gonna say, since we're on the topic, in the next hour there is the scene where Tony is in the spy shack, the spy nest. Forgive me. And Denise is at the well with Ben and Sarah, and she's talking about how they can't beat Tony at the end. And she just says, like, the thing about Tony is that he can do, like, the cat and mouse thing. He's really, like, he's doing all the deception stuff. And just the way she phrases it, I can tell, like, she is not into, like, the overly strategic game of, like, people playing, like, a million miles an hour. And it's, like, I don't even know why she's aligned with Tony, because, like, what Denise gets tired of in Survivor is like what Tony is like the epitome of.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell that like just going along with the burnout is like she doesn't want to deal with like the endless chatter and like the endless talking about plans. Like Denise just wants to like get a few people on board, all say a name, and then stop. Like we're gonna do the strategy for like 10 minutes and then we're gonna be done with it.
It makes sense too because in Philippines it was her and Malcolm. That was it. And yes, they split up, and yes, they made it to the merge. But once they got back, obviously, like RHAP has done like work with Malcolm in the past couple months, I think, and he said that like they literally almost died on a boat on the way to a tribal council because like it was so rocky. So there's shit we don't even see that's like going on. But like even if besides that, even if they just had like a pretty good bond, and you don't have a bond with anyone else on that other side for either of them, they come in and it's like these are the two people left from Matt Singh. These are the people that I've worked with for 17, 18, 19, 20 days. And even though I was away from you for one round, like I'm going to die for you. I'm going to go to bat for you because if we make it to the end, that's legendary. And they made it to the final four. Yeah. But here it's like we never saw those hard hitting lines. We did see Adam and Denise. I know Denise and Parvati were close, and there's definitely like Tony and Sarah are very close, and Sarah was close with Sophie, but that's not enough. That's not a trust cluster. That's not any voting block. That's just like two people who are probably a little bit close beforehand and came in like, oh, let's be allies. And it shows. They don't have like that 3-person group, which she tried to make last week, but also people are voted out. So it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, people get super lucky when they do find like that one person they can just trust with everything, like the Wendell and Dominic, like the Malcolm and Denise. Like when you have that, like that so often gets you to the end. When there is like a type pair that just like no matter what, they know that they can trust each other. That's just like such an advantage.
I dare say Rob and Amber.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The rice and beans, Courtney and Sandra, even though Courtney didn't make it.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh man. Ian and Tom.
So
big rip.
we do. Oh, yes, it's a good one. So we do get Michelle doing her coin advantage. I did hear a little bit of like people joking around like how the coin like literally just like flipped like one time in the air and like it was not really a flip. But in her defense, the table is not that big. And like if you throw it up and it like it's not necessarily gonna land on the table, like what if it hits the table and then rolls off? Like you can't like really do a great coin toss on a small table.
Okay, also, I do want to point out, and I could be wrong because I've only watched it once, the angle the coin impacted the table was not from the same direction on the camera, so I think she flipped it off the table, and then they just, like, edited the coin being thrown onto the table.
Really?
I would love that.
I have no way to prove it,
Oh my
but
God,
I think.
yeah. That would be funny.
The reaction kind of makes sense because everyone's not like, oh, or oh shit. They're just like, okay, cool. Maybe they're just that nervous, but even the jury was like, okay. But
Or
I
maybe
think
they just like want to keep their poker faces on because they like don't want to show how they voted. I don't know.
Well, the whole poker alliance is over there, so they got some professionals.
I
mean, yeah.
No, it's like it didn't matter. The votes were already going to Jeremy anyway, so it's like, okay.
Yeah. But if she would have played it on Jeremy, then it would have mattered. Yeah, because she was considering it. It seemed like she did not know who she was going to play it on. I couldn't believe that she was hesitating that much when she went up to play it. Like, it's just one of those things. Like when the jury is sitting there, you have to put on a show. Like you have to like be confident in what you're doing and like do things with gusto because people want to root for the like people who are like strong. You know what I mean? Like Michelle just came off as like so wishy-washy in that moment. And I love Michelle. And this was like such a great 2-hour episode for Michelle. But go ahead, JC.
But when you whiff like she did, looking wishy-washy instead of being confident, like if she goes in confident, plays it for herself, yes, I'm saving myself. Oh no, it was Jeremy. Because it was him, looking wishy-washy could be better.
Yeah, I mean, I guess she would have gone home if she would have played it on him. But I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like maybe did it look good that she was vacillating? I don't know.
Yeah.
But then if we get the iconic like coin flip dance. I don't know anything about dances or like what they're called. That like she did like the little like hands over the legs
zone
thing.
Dance.
I don't know.
Like she got a touchdown in like the 1990s. I don't really like. I fuck with Michelle, but girl, I don't know what that was.
She's being goofy. She's having fun. Get off her back, Pat.
No, I am a Michelle stan at this point. Like,
and then she's like teaching in the second hour. Like there's like a little clip of like her teaching Denise how to do it. So funny.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Any more comments like on the first hour?
It was a solid hour. It really was good.
It was kind of cool seeing the no whisper tribal. Like you can see how tired they are. Sarah and Denise showing it more than anybody else, but like they're done.
Yeah.
Well, I also just think when there's less people, there's just less people in the games. There's not as many like options.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like people are more like know what their end game plan is, and like they're gonna stick to that. But yeah, Jeremy was great. I know a lot of people were really excited to see him go. And I was sad too. But we get the opening of the next episode and we basically get Tony and Ben talking, and Tony is saying, like basically Michelle is a goat. She has no idea what's going on in the game. She needs to go next because he's not about to have, in the all winter season of Survivor, he's not about to have, a hyena like her making it to the end. Which was kind of, I don't know, that was like a very strange confessional to me. It's like you don't want the hyena sitting at the end, but you're trying to drag Ben and Denise to the end because you can beat them. It was just kind of like, I understand if Tony doesn't want Michelle in the game, it makes sense because they're not aligned.
Right.
But I don't know. I was just thought like what's the point of kind of like digging in, like putting salt in the wound and saying, oh, she has no idea what's going on. I don't know.
It's also weird because the edit, I really liked Michelle's first season. I didn't think yeah, Aubrey's robbed, but like still, I think Michelle played a good game. It's just very underrated, very, very underrated. I don't think it's like top tier, but I think it's very underrated.
Yeah.
But I think Michelle, like this season, like has a decent resume socially and definitely could get some votes, but I just don't see how she gets to the end. And that's why like it's very hard for me to get invested into her long-term character. Like I'm glad she's here, and I'm glad we're getting this character development of like I can't win a challenge, or I can't even like be a participant in a challenge yet I won the next one. But I'm like trying to think of like how she would even make it to the end, and it's like it depends who she plays in Fire, I guess. And I guess we did get that clip of Nick saying like, Michelle, can you make Fire? And she's like, no. So I don't know.
I mean, I think there is a path.
And I think it might have been you. Somebody definitely said when somebody asks you if you can make fire, you don't say no.
Right.
But I think if you're really confident, if you're really good at fire, you say no. And then you just crush somebody and take the credit for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be used like to your benefit or against you. Like if you're good at fire, then maybe, I want to use that person to make fire against the big threat. Or it can be, that person is a big threat and they can't make fire, so we have to get them out. So it's kind of like, I don't know, like what role you're in, like heading into the final four, if like you're considered a big threat or not. But yeah. But ultimately, like Ben and Tony are talking, and they kind of decide that the order is going to be Michelle first, and then Nick, because he's really good at puzzles. So that's kind of the order they decide upon. And then we go to Michelle. Nick is approaching her, and she goes, I was wondering if you'd have the balls to come and talk to me, and I cracked up. What a great line. I love Pissed Off Michelle, or Michelle from Jersey, or whatever she called herself. Sassy Michelle from Jersey.
I'm telling you guys, it's New York. I'm not trying to just be like, yeah, I'm from New York, dead ass. But like, they are so straightforward that to me, if she said that to me, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm
yeah.
So, but it really is like a cultural thing. Like, I'm not sure, like, oh, I'm from upstate. Like, I'm not from New York City, but it's like seriously, like that's how it is. You're very much just like tell it how it is, like bada bing, bada boom type people, and it comes out in Michelle's character, and that's also why I love it, because it's very like to home for me. But it's very much like New York metro area is just like, just tell me if you fuck with me. If you don't, just tell me straight up. And that's going at war with like nice Kentucky Nick, and it's like nice to see. And I think Nick realized in that moment, he fucked up.
Yeah, you can be from up in Rochester, or you can be all the way down in Wantagh, which is the two places I'm kind of from.
I don't know what that means.
He does. He does.
Very, very upstate or very downstate.
Okay.
But no, New York is New York.
Yeah.
Like it is.
Yeah. And same thing with Jersey. That shit goes even deeper. So I'm glad she was very much like, I'm not taking a step back. I am taking a step in, and we're gonna talk about this. If you come to me first, like I'm not gonna just like come to you and like whimpering like a little puppy dog. Like no, come talk to me. I like that. I appreciated that from her.
Yeah, and she basically says like,
move back to New York.
I've never been to New York, so now I want to go.
Let's go.
Michelle. But yeah, Michelle says like, what's our path to the end? Like we're both on the bottom. Like how do you not see it? And it does like, this is why it seems so clear to me that like Ben, Denise, Tony, and Sarah are like locked in. Like even Michelle can see like these four are sticking together. So like WTF? Like, what were you thinking? And then, you can just tell that Michelle, and I've been like this in the live game before, so I totally get it. It's like Michelle and Sarah are talking, and Michelle's like, I know I'm going next. Like, nobody's talking to me, so, like, fuck it. Like, I don't even care anymore. Like, let's put out Tony. Like, I'm going to tell Sarah to put out Tony, because I don't even care anymore. Like, and that's something that I think is actually awesome, is if you know that you are basically like the next person out and you have nothing to lose, that's like the person that the jury wants to root for. And that's, I think, what helped her so much in Co Wrong is, you can say what you want about the jury not liking Aubrey, etc. But like Michelle had a compelling underdog story at the end of that season of she was not in the know, she was on the outs, she was well liked, and she won some immunity challenge to get herself to the end. And like, that's the person when you're on the jury that like, oh man, I was rooting for them. I didn't think they'd make it, but then they scrapped at the end to make it to the end. So like, that's the path I see for Michelle is, if she, maybe the Edge of Extinction person comes in and they play an idol for Michelle and Michelle wins immunity and Michelle beats Tony in fire. And then suddenly she's in final 3 with, Ben or Denise or the Edge of Extinction person. And like, she has a compelling case of just being the underdog that the jury is like, who, especially being on the Edge of Extinction, like they want some entertainment. They want that fire. They want that person who like wasn't supposed to get to the end and they scrapped at the end to get it. And I think that her kind of doing this persona of like telling Nick, I didn't think you'd come talk to me, and telling Sarah to vote out Tony, it's kind of baller.
It is baller. And I feel like for me, watching what we're watching, granted, it's like the director's like 1 hour cut of whatever. It's like the director's cut of Survivor. Right. But if it was Tony versus Sarah in the end, I feel like I would choose Tony. And if it was Tony versus Michelle and I'm watching this game, like I'm not saying that Michelle's playing a better game than Sarah, but for that reason alone, I'd be like, fuck yeah, Michelle, give me a good case. And depending on these next couple of rounds, I'll vote for you 100%. That means you made it through Final 6 twice, Final 5, the Final 4 fire, making him probably beat someone because they know you have a good social game, and you're in the Final 3. Like that's 3 more masterclass rounds that Tony has been playing a good game so far, but it's like if Michelle can get there, it's like you got some votes.
I will say the Holloway game,
right?
You gotta play the Brett game. He didn't do it, but if Brett had won that last one,
yeah. And I can attest, like playing a live game, that you don't want to vote for the person that got you out. Like there's just something in you that is like, I am mad at that person because they are the person that they ousted me, they outsmarted me, and I don't want to give them the satisfaction of giving them my votes. Like you look for any reason to vote for somebody else. And granted, this jury is massive, and Tony didn't vote out most of these people just because so many were voted out pre-merge. But like, there isn't enough people that he voted out that like would be willing to, I think, to vote for Michelle, or like they would just look for a reason to vote for Michelle. I mean, I do think Tony is the person who's going to win, and I like that Michelle told Sarah, like, Tony is in charge, and Sarah's like, why do you think that? And Michelle says, perception is everything, which is one of my favorite like pieces of Survivor advice or Survivor wisdom. Is like, even if Sarah was in charge, people would think Tony is in charge because of the way that he acts and the way that he talks, and he's kind of like a mob boss sometimes. And so like Michelle, even if Sarah's not going to vote out Tony in this instance, at least puts that bug in Sarah's mind that like, oh, even if I am playing the better game, I still might lose to Tony in the end.
Right.
So every time, like every iteration, every time it comes up, I more and more need to play one of these Survivor live games, because the 2 live games I've played have been not Amazing Race. They were not Amazing Race, but they've been Amazing Race style. You lose the challenge, you're out. That's how it goes. There's very little. There is some social play involved, but that's not where the focus is. They're also in a much higher time constraint than the ones that you've played, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, I mentioned going out on the dice roll, but you know what's even worse to go out on? No, actually the dice roll's worse. But the other one that's not fun to go out on, food challenge.
Oh,
I'm the food. I wish that was a thing. Like fuck, like Final 4, you got to eat like this squid.
So the cool thing about the food challenge that I lost on, it was all reasonable food. Like it wasn't disgusting food. It was just all blended together, and yeah, couldn't do it.
And for these reasons,
I'm a chef. I've eaten some really disgusting things in my life, so I feel like I've never done a gross food eating challenge in one of my games. I kind of did. I ate dried bugs, but they didn't taste bad at all.
Yeah, that's probably not that bad.
It was more just like they dried out your mouth so much. It was like who could finish like actually chewing and swallowing faster.
That's worse.
And I did win my round, but anyway.
One of my most iconic moments comes from a food challenge, and it is Andrew Savage and I think Jeremy.
Oh, the balloon, the bonus balloon.
They just finish at the same time and then like high five across the table and.
Oh. I was thinking of like when Jeremy ate a balloon just for fun, like on the way out of the challenge, like he takes another one and eats it.
Oh, God.
So that's on the list of things I think I actually would be okay eating. The cow blood, I could have done that one.
I'm afraid of blood and fish, so those are like my two outs. I don't know what a balut is, but I'm just not into it.
Balut
It's,
is like the
chicken,
it's like
basically.
chicken like fetus.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, it's a fertilized chicken egg.
Ew!
Yeah, it's like in between an egg and a chicken.
Another thing I don't like is eggs. Like I hate eating eggs because they remind me of. I don't like baby. It reminds me like a baby chicken. It is a baby chicken, but I can't.
No, it's not.
That's
It's
what
not
balut
a
is.
baby chicken.
That's what balut is.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, good point. Is an egg? Oh, an egg is just an egg. It's not fertilized. Guys,
Egg is just an egg.
and sometimes an egg is just an egg. I think you fixed it for me.
Can I offer you an egg in this trying time?
Oh my God.
You fixed eggs for me, guys. Thank you. This has been like a 20-year debacle in my life.
I feel like you fixed eggs for yourself just now. I didn't even do anything.
This is like teletherapy. I'll pay you guys after. I'll Venmo.
But
Yeah.
I think the worst food challenge they've ever done, they did pig brain. The Samoa smoothie one was not a good one. Ugh.
I fucking can't deal with things that aren't textured well and you're eating them and it's just like fucking chunky. Like that makes me want to. I can't even think about it.
What's like the long, like white worm-looking thing that like looks kind of like a finger? You know what
You're talking
what I'm talking about?
Tina,
Like it looks like it has
I think?
like a nail at the end. It's
that-
so
was
gross.
that
It's some kind of like
Australia?
maggot. I don't even know. I think they've done it multiple times. Way on topic. We don't need to discuss it.
Well, just in case the Final Four fire making changes to Final Four food making. It's like chop.
Ooh, I want that. That's the challenge I want.
Yeah, you would win.
Actually,
anyway.
make the breakfast on day 39, make it a challenge.
Yes, Gordon
Yeah.
Ramsay, come on in.
Make some like breakfast crepes for people.
Oh my God,
so we
you
could-
make breakfast for the jury.
You could.
Yeah, that's how you win the votes. I'd make eggs that Pat actually wanted to eat.
I like eggs Benedict. If they can get some hollandaise sauce in Fiji.
Yeah, you can. Honestly, you could probably make that with what they give you.
Yeah.
It'd be really hard though. Anyways, I won't go through the process of making hollandaise. So we get this EOE segment of the Throne of Stone, which I was just thinking Game of Thrones the whole time.
Mhm.
But this was just, I don't know. This was just one of the things that Natalie is just so stacked. Like, not only has she been on Edge of Extinction the longest, but she's also like such a freaking beast that she can, outrun basically anybody. Like Wendell was apparently a good sprinter, but he wasn't on Edge of Extinction long enough to like know where to go. And I did see some critique online. I think I really follow Chaos Castle a lot on Twitter, and she was basically like, I call bullshit on this whole like person being voted out first having like the biggest advantage to get back in the game, because not only are they going to understand the clues faster than everybody else because they've been there the longest and they know the layout of the island better. They also just have more opportunities to get fire tokens. So what are your all's thoughts on Michelle basically like getting handed this I'm not being handed, but you know what I mean, having such a significant advantage in getting it?
I don't think this is one of the lesser advantages that have come from Edge.
Yeah.
You're able to screw one person over, but unless this advantage is being given to Tony to use against Michelle, like everyone on Edge is going to go with the underdog player, and I can't think of anybody on Edge right now who would honestly give it to Tony.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just thinking like more, it was so easy for Natalie to get it. I don't know.
Oh,
Right.
I thought you were talking about like it being used against Ben.
No, I was saying for Natalie in terms of like how stacked
She
it is
almost
for
didn't.
her on Mythic Extinction.
She almost didn't get it. She actually like it came down to a fork a fork in the path.
Well, I know, but like her being on Edge of Extinction the longest, she knew like the layout of the island better, and like she knew all of the places on it. Which again,
Yeah.
I'm not mad at because I love Natalie, but it is just kind of like, I understand the point of should it be easier for the first person voted out to get back in the game over somebody who was just voted out? Like, Nick and Jeremy are going to be going into this Edge of Extinction challenge with no tokens, no advantages. Same with Kim. And, I don't know if I 100% agree with the people who made it farther in the game who are playing better, having a significantly disadvantage to get back in the game.
Right.
And then on top of that, I think the Get Back in the Game challenge takes place at 34.
Like day 34,
Day 34, and you have to use your tokens by the evening of 34.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, yeah.
They should have let Nick keep his tokens. They shouldn't have made Nick bequeath his tokens, because there's no use for them after the Edge challenge.
That's also true. I think he used his.
He didn't bequeath any,
Nick
did he?
gave 2 away, I think. I'm pretty sure.
I thought he used them.
Yeah, I think he used all of his to get the advantage.
Oh, okay.
Jeremy gave 2 to Michelle when he got voted out.
That's
But
right.
that's a good point, though, because if it's already it's like going to a new country that can't take your money. It's like the same thing. It's like, well, I can't use it in the game because I got voted out, but I also can't get anything on Edge. So it's not fair for me. Unless he has a ridiculous amount, then production probably be like, actually, maybe if he had a ridiculous amount and it was the last day of production, be like, you have 12 tokens? Yeah, sure. Like, go ahead. Like rock your socks off. But I also think, like, an interesting thing with this, too, is, like, Ben is, like, I don't think he was the target of Michelle and Nick necessarily, but, like, how I would play this is, unless, like, there's a lot of challenge threats left. Like, Tony has proven that he is a challenge threat this season. Sarah can win immunities. Ben is a physical dude, but yet to win immunities this time. And then there's Denise, who can also win immunities. There's Nick, who can do puzzles. And then you're sitting there as Michelle, who can also win immunities. Like, she won in Co Wrong. But at the same time, like, I would use this as, like, the idol nullifier. I would be like, who is my target this round? Who can I get people on board if I'm in this minority position? And if I was Nick, I would be like, who do I need to get out in order to get myself safe? And he thought that person was Ben for a little bit of the post-tribal go of things, and then tried to flip it to Denise once Tony was up in his ear, which again is a whole other thing. But for me, I would be like, who do I need out in this challenge? And I guess for him, he was like, who do I need out plus who can we beat, or who can I beat, like Nick beat. And it's like you said, Luke, like it's weird because it's so many tokens that just go into Natalie's pocket directly from the game.
She gets 8 tokens at a time. That's insane. Especially when you think back to like the early advantages where it was only 1 token. Like you could only sell an advantage for 1 token. Mm-hmm. And now it's like Natalie, at the end of the game, obviously nobody was spending their tokens on the stupid advantage menu that they had at the merge that was like all freaking useless things that nobody would want to buy. And so then everybody has like, 5-6 tokens at the end of the game. Yeah. I don't know. It's
Denise bought rice.
Denise did buy rice.
But even that was just like, we'll get to that later, but I feel like that was smart on her part. But just like the fact that Natalie could charge 8 tokens for something, it's like, this is so much more than anybody else. Nobody even had 8 tokens.
Right.
Like on Edge of Extinction, like nobody on Edge of Extinction had 8 tokens. And then Natalie gets 8 all at once.
It's the inflation.
14.
Yeah. The inflation of the market is a little ridiculous. Honestly, it's very interesting to look at. And it's also like, they put out all these tokens for it. And at the end of the day, like you said, it was something that was less valuable than what Sandra got for 1. Like a token for an immunity idol, yes, in the pre-merge is good, but it expired at like 12 or 11. I think it was 13 or 12 anyway.
And she could use it for 3 tribals, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So if you go into merge as an anti-Denise, if you've never been to tribal and you make it to merge without going to tribal,
Michelle and Cole.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, there were several people who have done it over the years. But in that scenario, you have an idol good for the first 3 votes of merge.
Yeah, which is big.
If you can do it.
All for 1 token versus 8 tokens for being like, you have to start further back. And Ben almost beat it out too. It's almost like he liked the challenge of like, ooh, 30% more.
Well, I mean, he might have felt like he was in danger. He's like, I don't know who's targeting me, so like maybe it's me on the block tonight.
Okay, also that 30%, if you look at the way the balance is structured, you're not actually adding that much to him. It's a very small setback.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
100%.
it does seem like, at least based on the edit, that was the difference between him possibly winning immunity because he was right there. And
Yeah.
it seemed like everybody in that challenge was in it. Like, Jeff, it's funny because Jeff always.
I was saying that's how he was able to stay in it, was because it is not a big setback.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it's so funny because, like, Jeff was saying, he always says, like, who's still in it or, like, who's close, but there's only, like, 6 people left, and, like, 4 out of the 6 people were still in it. So I'm like, Jeff, you're listing, like, almost everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I was really excited that, Michelle ultimately won. But it is kind of strange that Nick uses the disadvantage on Ben, but then we don't see any sort of a plan resembling targeting Ben at all.
Right. That's why I was like, it's essentially like a challenge nullifier in a sense, like an immunity necklace nullifier. If the person isn't as good as the challenge as Ben was, it's basically like, all right, you're fucked. If you're decent to bad at this challenge, you're done. But at the same time, like, he throws this on him, and like that's what you said. That's what I'm seeing too. Like, it's so interesting that he was just like, all right, no, we have to try and get Ben on board, or try to get Denise or anyone else on board to get out. Like who? Like Sarah, who's in with Tony, or get Ben out, who's close with Denise. Relatively, It was a weird play.
Ironically, the only way that Nick would have stayed this round is if he would have disadvantaged Michelle.
Yeah,
100%. She would have gone home. Yeah. Which I mean, I don't think would have been a good move. Well, yeah, I mean, and as long as Michelle doesn't win, like she's getting voted out, I don't think that necessarily is a good move for Nick because then he has to win out, and there's going to be a new Final Six when Edge of Extinction person returns. And he might be a bigger target than them, especially if they suspect that person has an idol. So I just think that Nick was coming into this round having to win immunity based on the Jeremy vote. I had mixed feelings about this whole like Denise Rice situation. On first watch, I was super down on it, thinking like, what is Denise doing? This is a super bad look. Like she does not like, this is like kind of, I don't know, like smarmy. Like I don't really like the ploy because it maybe like would look bad to the players in the game. But on a rewatch, I actually think it was like incredibly smart. So basically what she outlines is it's the last day that you can spend fire tokens. So she says, let's cook all our rice, and before sundown, I will buy more rice for us. Go ahead.
Is that day 34? Is that because
that day, whatever day was like the last episode, or like when they're going to tribal council to vote out Nick, that's the last day that they can use their fire tokens. Because there is a brief little moment, I think, of Denise like pouring more rice or like getting more rice or something.
She definitely did. She definitely did get more rice. I thought they were on day 32.
Okay, maybe she's 33. Like maybe she thinks there's not going to be any more opportunities to use the fire tokens. Anyways, she has this whole ploy to like do a fake out of basically saying you can vote me out, and as long as I go to Edge of Extinction with rice in my belly, that's fine. And she doesn't even say you can vote me out. She says if I go, I would like to be full. So, and basically there's nothing good on the advantage menu to buy. So she's like, I might as well just buy rice for us. But like Denise was the kind of decoy target in the last vote. Like originally, before they were going after Ben, like Denise was like the decoy name that they were throwing out, and Jeremy was like saying, "Oh, like I don't trust that it's the plan is Denise," and then ultimately she's like the decoy again. And I guess that's ultimately my problem with the move is that she is the decoy target 2 rounds in a row. That's just not really the spot you want to be in going into Final 6 or 5 because that shows that you're not in charge because you're at risk of going home.
And Sarah, like I think that first hour, it was either the first or second, but I think it was the first one, tells Ben and Tony, all right, we're telling people we're voting for Denise, but we're actually voting for Jeremy. And then she says it again in the next hour. So it's too much. It's like putting so much on her. And it sucks because like Denise hasn't necessarily played a bad game so far. I think the only play, I agree that on a rewatch, the Rice really plays out in a less like sinister, like cynical way. It's very much just like, guys, fuck it, I'm hungry, let's eat rice, and I have so many tokens that we can't spend. Because Jeff in the challenge just drops this on them, which I didn't really care for, because Jeff was like, guys, this is the last time you can use your tokens. And I was like, I don't mean to be the casual Facebook fan right now, but like, wasn't there supposed to be a payoff for them? Like, for me, I know the payoff is Edge and the economy flowing through the game and out of like the losers bracket. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like shocking that like that's all we get, you know?
Do you remember
I was expecting an auction
Yeah.
to use the tokens on. I really was.
Yeah, or something.
I think I said that during week 2 of us doing this podcast. Like,
yeah. It makes sense.
I was just expecting a better menu of advantages. Like, what I was really hoping would happen is that for like 2 tokens, you can buy an extra vote, but you don't know when people are spending their tokens, obviously. So like, you know, if you show up to a tribal council that like the opposing alliance might have spent their tokens to get an extra vote or 2.
Yeah.
That would have been like supremely interesting to me, because, and I think that the problem with that is that then nobody has tokens to buy the edge advantages because people are always buying extra votes. So I think that's why they didn't do it. But
it opens up the possibility in future seasons where there isn't Edge of Extinction to use fire tokens in a normal.
Yeah. And I think Jeff has said that they're going to have fire tokens in season 41, but not Edge of Extinction.
Which is awesome. That's so fun.
Yeah, and I like that. And I especially like, you know, going back to Michelle, that being bequeathed fire tokens is a solid way that you can define a social game. Mm-hmm. In a way, is like Michelle has gotten so many tokens, and granted, she's been on the wrong side of almost every vote of the post-merge, except for the Adam vote. I think like it is absurd how few times she has voted correctly in the post-merge. Like, she's been left out so freaking much, but because of that, she's been bequeathed fire tokens, and that is a way to show how everybody who's leaving is close to Michelle, and that's like a great argument for her in Final Tribal Council, is saying, all of you gave me your tokens because you trusted me and I wasn't on your vote, but like at the very least it shows that you trusted me, if nothing else.
Natalie has 14 from basically the equivalent of winning challenges. Michelle has them from playing a social game and getting them bequeathed to her. And I agree, the only times Michelle, it's really sad, I really do like the game Michelle's playing, the only time she's really voted correctly is like Tyson, and like she didn't want to
Sophie, I guess, too.
What she does is like she'll vote against her alliance, but they know she's doing it, or at least she explains to them, because they don't burn her. Like, Nick never burns her, Jeremy never burns her. He's just like, okay, like, you voted for Tyson, you voted for Sophie. We never see them hash it out and duke it out. She's just like, yeah, that's who I voted for. And it's almost like either no one cares or everyone's just like, yeah, we knew you wanted to stay with the majority. But even when she's voting correctly, she's still like voting against herself. So it's funny to watch, though. It's good strategy if it's working for her.
Yeah.
2 things from social media that kind of both fit into the last couple topics we've had. The first is people keep complaining about fire tokens, and every single time I put a similar comment, almost identical comment, talking about like, this is their trial run. Yeah. You do not put it all in on the trial run. You want this to be you want this this twist to pay off in the long run. You want this twist to be the new Exile Island. Every iteration, every time you bring it back, you'll change it a little bit, you'll update it a little bit, and have it evolve with the game. Exile Island lasted for how many seasons in a row?
Yeah, so many.
And it was a good twist, and they did so many cool things with it. For anybody out there who's watching, wait and see what happens. We don't want them to go all in on fire tokens this season or even next season. We want this to be a long-term payoff. Yeah. And then the other thing is, I keep seeing people talk about how terrible a season this is on social media, and then the first comment they use to defend themselves is how all the old schoolers went out first. I really wanted to see a lot of the people who are not playing this game play. I really did.
Yeah.
It's been a fantastic season overall, and I really did just like want to jut that into this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we didn't get to see the rise of Ethan. We didn't get to see Yule be this absolute master powerhouse that he could have been. We got breadfruit, but like the flip side of that is we're getting the biggest new school power struggle ever. Second Chance was close. I would actually say Second Chance is closer to this than Game Changers is. But like we're getting a solid, good season out of it, and the finale, like I don't see a scenario where the finale lets us down for this one.
Yeah, I agree. And
if the Extinction person wins, it's a letdown. But it's going to be an exciting journey. Either it's going to be a really
going
exciting
into
journey.
the season, I agree.
Either it's going to be a really exciting journey, or I'm going to like be okay with the outcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
going
both.
into the season, I was very opposed to Edge of Extinction. I mean, I like Redemption Island. I don't like Edge of Extinction. But
Yeah.
Natalie has proven that if she is the one who gets back in, she has put the work in that she deserves, and she does still have to survive 4 votes.
Yeah.
Natalie could be a deserving winner. Nick, I wouldn't be the most happy about. If he rotating doored and came right back in, I'm okay with it. Jeremy,
I would be most happy with him. Yeah.
I would like a Tyson win.
Yeah.
If we're talking wish.
Sir, just going back to the Natalie thing of she still has to survive 4 votes. She does not have to survive 4 votes. She has an idol coming back to the finals. She has an idol, and Final 4 is not a vote. She has to survive 1 vote, and she's probably going to win immunity because she's amazing at everything.
A beast.
So that's that's my qualm. And I know that in the original Edge of Extinction season, Chris Underwood basically came back in with a plan of like people on the edge had told him, if you don't do this, this, and this, then we're not going to vote for you at the end. So he didn't win immunity one time because they basically said, like, if you just win out immunities to the end, that's not a good enough game. So like he did the whole ploy with getting Lauren to play the idol on him. But like if he didn't have that blueprint, would he have done it? Probably not. Right. That's my problem with Edge of Extinction is you can go in knowing exactly what you have to do because all you have on Edge of Extinction is time to talk about the game and you know, what do you vote for me in this scenario? And there's no reason to lie because only one person's getting back in the game.
And I think it's been like the thing. Go. No, go.
Oh, I was going to say, if we're talking like things that I want to happen, I'd love to see Jeremy get back in and win it. But as far as things I am happy with happening, Natalie, I will be okay with. I won't feel like Edge of Extinction if Natalie is the one who pulls it out. Because she has put the physical legwork into all these side objectives they're giving them.
Yeah. And that's just like the difference between how we think about the game is like, like my approach to the game is like 0% physical. Like I do not think about the physical aspect of the game at all. Like I spend 0% of my time thinking about how I would do in challenges. I only think about like the social and strategic aspect of the game. And not that she doesn't have to do any of that, but she has to do like 0.1% of what the people who have been in the game the whole time have had to do. Like they have to think about the social strategic game 24/7. Like these people are consumed by it. Whereas it's a different sort of, and Sarah expressed this in Tribal Council recently of like, they would give anything to be in our shoes playing the game, but like we just want to turn off and not have to think about the game, which is what they get to do on Edge of Extinction is like, I'm sure they think about the game, but they don't have to like stress about it because they're not in danger of being voted out right now.
Yeah.
So it's just like a difference of Natalie doesn't have to go through that social strategic aspect of the game to nearly the extent that everybody else has who's played the entire 39 days in the main game.
And unlike Exile Island, I should say, where Palau, they introduced it and Janu quit because she was just like so upset, which to be honest, I completely forgot they had Exile Island before they had Survivor Exile Island. Like they really tried it out. They were like, let's put this in there and see what happens. And then they had Survivor Panama, Exile Island. So that to me is one step of like that, right? That's the Panama.
That wasn't Palau.
Wasn't Panama before Palau?
I thought
Yeah.
wasn't Palau 10 and then Panama 11?
No, because it goes Palau, Guatemala, then the season that has Exile Island, and then Exile Island.
Wait, isn't
yes, so you were right, Pat. So you were saying that I don't think
Janu's on
Palau had
I
it.
thought.
No,
I'm
there
pretty
is
sure.
there is a season that had Exile Island before Exile Island, but it's not Palau.
Oh, which one? Janu went to exile and then quit because she was too emotional.
Because Palau is the Stephanie first season. There's no Exile Island on that season.
I don't think Janu ever went to Exile Island.
I
don't think they had it on Palau.
You guys probably know better. I'm bad with old school. No, she did. Janu is the first castaway and survivor to be banished to exile. On
Oh,
War. Okay, but because what happened is...
Was it like just a one-episode twist?
So what they did, literally,
Okay.
2 seasons before it, they're like, let's create Exile Island. Janu is on Karor. They merge with Oolong. Merge, because Stephanie just pulls up.
Right. Absorbed.
I'm pretty sure Stephanie wins the reward challenge, or someone wins the reward challenge, and then part of the reward is, you get to send this mysterious Exile Island. Janu was already like on the not on the outs of her tribe, but just very like didn't have big social bonds and wasn't picked off because they got Oolong. The other tribe literally got Oolong, obviously. So they come back in and have this whole thing. That's like how it goes. And then Janu quits. That gets Stephanie to another round, but then Stephanie eventually just gets voted out. But
she did make it very far for herself, though.
Ridiculously far. But my point being, like, exile, like how you were saying before, how tokens can like have this progression, and I 100% think this is the wave of Survivor of the future until they do some sort of reset, if they ever do a reset, which I don't think they should. But Edge of Extinction just does not. It's been proven. Redemption Island and Extinction have flaws inherently because someone comes back in when there's 5 people left, and it's 5 + 1 = 6, and it's like. That is like, you can't come in at the final 5 and be that 6th person and then go. You can go in to win the game, but it's gonna piss the people off watching it. Even the people that like, if it pisses super fans and casuals and like the mediary off, and no one's happy about it except the people who've played on Redemption Island or Edge of Extinction seasons, it sucks. Like the only people.
That being said, Ozzy would have won South Pacific, and the casuals would have freaking had a party with that.
Right,
but other than that, I generally agree with you. Yeah,
I don't think Redemption Island is executed perfectly. I just appreciate that it does exist.
I agree, and I'm not even mad at you. I'm just mad at like the idea of it because Ozzy had a chance to be fully fledged out for Cook Islands, Micronesia, and then he comes back for 23, and that's why the casuals like Ozzy was robbed. Right, like, you know what I mean? We need him to win. And then like Edge of Extinction, it's like I liked Chris because Chris is hot. But I'm like, why do I care about Chris besides, that snake? I really don't. And that's why I'm like, I can't believe that it's like casual super fans and just fans of Survivor. Like, we don't want this. But an easy fix, and Jeff Probst knows this because Rob Sesternino told him to his face. Like, Sesternino literally went to him like on that interview and was like, the fans don't like this. If you ended this at 12 or 11, that would be fine. And Big Brother does that literally every season from what I understood from the interview. So it's fine, like, to just do it like that. So I'm hoping going forward, we get like some like Redemption Island, Edge of Extinction, plus Fire Tokens reboot. And it's called something new, and it stops at the merge, and they learn from their mistakes. Because Redemption Island can be compelling television. We saw that in Blood versus Water. Like, when there's some extra dynamic, it can be good, but you can't do it the way it's been done. And I know we're all on that page, but like, it's enough. It's like almost like enough, But I agree. Like, I think Natalie coming back is a compelling story. She's definitely built up her bonds with the jury. I hope they realize that, and I hope they realize going forward. They did just see Chris Underwood's finale win, and then they go out like a day or 2 later. So hopefully, they didn't get to see the whole aftermath, which wasn't like bad, but it was just like an aftermath. So hopefully the people playing realize that.
Yeah, I think you can say that we hope they realize that, but at the same time, their entire life is Edge of Extinction. So like, are you really thinking, 30 days into living on Edge of Extinction and being around Natalie, like, are you really thinking that much about what the public is going to perceive on the outside? Or do you just like emotionally want to vote for, a Natalie or a Tyson or a Parvati or whoever is, that eventual returning? Like, it's just, you have that emotional attachment to them that almost like goes beyond just like rational thought of like, oh, even though this person played the better game, like this other person is here that I really, really like, and I've spent so much time with them compared to these people who I spent no time with. Right. There's people obviously it's different on a returnee season because most of these people have at least met before, or like have seen each other play before. But like, what emotional attachment does Ethan have to Tony? Probably zero, as compared to if his buddy Parvati gets back in the game. He has every reason to vote for Parvati.
Right. It's true.
So yeah,
it's true.
Anyways, there's a few more things I just wanted to mention from the actual round of play that's not on the Age of Extinction. So Tony and Sarah were debating between Nick or Denise, but they ultimately say that like this. I appreciated that they said this about Nick. They said Nick has been an underdog and Nick is playing really hard, and I appreciated that they acknowledged that like Nick has played a really hard game because I said this before, but I just feel like he hasn't gotten the edit that he maybe deserved because I do think that we've been shown that he's been playing all sides for several rounds pretty effectively, and ultimately it catches up to him. But I do think that he had a really he could have been edited as really compelling underdog for the season. But ultimately they decide to vote out Nick instead of Denise in this spot.
Yeah. And it was what it was. It was kind of just like they have a vendetta against the hyenas. It makes total sense for Tony and Sarah's game. I don't know why. I guess I can understand why Ben would think he's not a hyena because he did play a very flashy game his first time. And I guess it's just my like reading too much into this edit of him not being too much of like an overdog in this sense. But I don't, it's just like for me, the whole time thinking about it, if I was out there, that means I won the game. And if I won the game, that means I know Tony is winning this season if he makes it to the end with the things he's doing. He's just playing so masterfully. And it's like Tony might seem neutered, or at least seem neutered for the first like 10 rounds or so, but he's not. He still had a good social game. And it's like, it's crazy that like the individuals are just like, we're good. We're gonna let this slide. And maybe it's gotten to the point now where no one really has a say because Sarah and Ben are kind of shielding him, like from getting any majority votes.
Yeah. Ben coming into this season, having played 3 idols in a row his previous season, is I think why he has such a big head about his game is because, 3 idols in a row is unprecedented. Playing 3 idols correctly, that had not happened before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a advantage get in at 5.
That was a question I wrote down for you guys for towards the end.
I don't think there's another advantage coming into the game. So it'll be 3 idols and the immunity necklace, but that still leaves 2 people.
I think that, I mean, if at final 6, but not at final 5 if there's 3 idols and an immunity necklace.
Oh, you're right. Why did I can't math right now.
No, but I know what you mean. But I don't think that we're gonna get through final 6 without an idol being played. Surely not. I mean, I would be shocked it was crazy to me in this episode that we almost got no mention of Tony and Ben's idol. And I mean, overall, the fact that Tony and Sarah were not targeted in these 2 hours is like so incredibly mind blowing. Like, I don't understand how they're not being targeted. Like, they are obviously playing a great game, but like, I would like to see a little more detail and like why they're not being targeted. Like, ask these people directly in confessional, like, oh, why are you not considering Tony or Sarah on this vote? And like, I want to hear directly from the mouths of Ben, Denise, Michelle, what is not clicking that you're not targeting these people. It's so insane to me.
It's like David and Moana plus Sharn in Australian All-Stars. Like, David and Moana are just like holding shop on these people. They're just doing whatever they want. Sharn's in the background also playing a decent social game, and no one thinks to target them to the point where they get to the end and they just freaking win. Like, David just blows them out of the water. Sincerely, with the edit, and I'm not sure if there'll be an advantage get in. I think the only way that there could be one is if Natalie wins immunity. And like one of Ben or Natalie has to win immunity. Ben or Tony and Sarah have to feel very secure.
Did you just?
Oh, I think Natalie is coming back.
Okay, I was gonna say because I don't know if we addressed it while we've been recording, but like, who looked at the like spoiler? You didn't?
Oh no, I'm the only. I've looked at the spoiler though. I know who comes back. Ultimately, gotcha. Natalie and Tyson are the only ones who would have idols coming back into the game, as far as I know.
Rob has.
And Rob has one too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but like for me, I just feel like I like to think it's Tyson, but the edit I just watched the episode and it's leading so orchestrated into Natalie. That's why I just went for it. But either Natalie or Tyson, like just insert there. But let's say like Natalie, right? She comes back, wins immunity. To me, I could even see Ben and Tony being, since they're so tight with Sarah, that means they have at least a 3. And the other people left are Denise and Michelle, who are, I guess are the swing votes, but even still can't break that 3, and Natalie's safe. So then it's like, well, Ben and Tony are like, do we want to save Denise or Michelle? No, we don't want to save a hyena. So everyone just implodes on Denise or Michelle, probably Michelle. And then we go into 5, and now it's like Natalie has an idol, Michelle doesn't, Ben does, Tony does, and Sarah doesn't. So like at that point, it would have to be Sarah or Michelle winning immunity, which they've both shown they can do. I an advantage getting out someone like wouldn't be the worst idea for me, but as depends who it depends who it is. Like if it's like Tony gets advantage, well, she can't. Like it had to be Michelle or Denise, and I think
I could actually see Sarah going out that way.
it seemed right.
With
like
the edit, with the edit, she could.
Right, but it'd be That's what I'm saying. It's
Michelle and Denise both. Michelle and Denise both also could though, go out that way.
That would be
with her edit.
It'd be so good for Michelle's edit and her legacy in general to be like, yeah, you guys got me. You finally got me, but it took freaking an immunity necklace and 3 idols to get me out.
And it's funny because it'd be almost the opposite for Denise because she's been so like not playing the game and like and not that she hasn't been playing the game, but her edit has been so like, oh, her head's not in it, she's not really there. So advantage getting for her would almost be like, oh, well, she just wasn't playing hard enough to get anything.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
And I really don't think that we're gonna get it. I kind of see this is just a prediction. If somebody comes back into the game with an idol, either I think like that person and Michelle will both get through at final 6 because of some combination of winning immunity and an idol. I feel like those 2 are going to be saved, and then it's going to force the other 4 to somehow turn on each other. Because I really do feel like that's been a tight 4, and that's a storyline that I wish we would have gotten more of. Is why is Denise with those 3 people? I have no idea when Denise became a part of that 4 because she was close with Kim just in the previous episode, and then all of a sudden she's with this 4. And like the only connection I can think of is like her and Ben found an idol together, like in episode 1 or 2. But like, what connection does she have to? Well, actually, now that I'm talking it through, she was on the second version of DeCall with Tony, and her and Sarah are both from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So I'm like, I guess she has a connection with every person in some way. But like, why didn't we get any sort of storyline of like why Denise suddenly joined such a tight 4?
Yeah, so we get a little of it in the background, but she and Jeremy were working together on Original Cele, but then after this on New DeCall, they were at odds with each other.
Well, but like she played her idol for him, so they should. I mean, that's why I would expect them to work together for that.
Yeah. She played her idol for him, but then the vote still came up as her, so Jeremy did vote for her. And from that point forward, in the merge, they never really saw eye to eye. Maybe on 1 vote, maybe on 2 votes, but that's really stretching it. Like she gravitated right back towards Ben, and he wanted nothing to do with Ben. And the line in the sand got drawn, unfortunately, because I like them both. I don't see Denise winning, but oh man, do I want a Denise win.
It would be great, but the edit's so against it.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah, but there's balanced edit all around. I mean, like, Tony could win, Sarah could win. I could see Michelle winning. I could see an Edge returnee, unfortunately, in my eyes, winning. And that's kind of why I'm kind of pushing. I love Tyson, but I think his narrative ended with winning back into the game, and I think there was some lingering people that were like, well, why is his edit so open-ended? And I think it's just because it's to show how generous Natalie is. But I don't think if Natalie comes back in, like, she was pretty invisible that first episode. She had 1 confessional, and if she's a day 1 boot, you would think she would really overpower that narrative, or day 2 boot. You would think she would overpower that narrative and then come back in later on in the game, since she's been out for 30-something days, and win the game. So I would believe more of a Tyson win than a Natalie win. But maybe that's just because one of them is going to be at the final tribal, and that's all it really is.
Yeah. I mean, just to play devil's advocate for Natalie is, how do you edit out how dominant she's been on the edge? Because like she has 14 tokens in this last episode, and like they have to show the Edge of Extinction because it's the theme of the season. And like she has dominated the Edge of Extinction in and those challenges. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to dominate in the returning challenge just because she has 3 advantages. Mm-hmm. You know, as we saw last time, like the advantages helped people, but it didn't like I think it was maybe Yule who didn't have any, and he was like still not out of the challenge. Like he had a chance to win it without any advantages. So I do think that like if Natalie doesn't return, I still think like the edit was justified to give her that airtime because she was the Edge of Extinction this season. Like she dominated it from beginning to end, whether she gets back in the game or not.
100%.
Yeah, the Edge needs a read. It needs a mare.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah.
Was there anything else left in the episode you want to touch on, guys?
I just wanted to say, Michelle said she needed immunity of like Jeff needed a blue button down and khakis, and that was iconic, and I loved it.
So good.
Cracked me up.
She's given us good confessionals, good just content in general. Like to Jeff, it's freaking amazing. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I didn't like that one. That one was weird.
That was a little too much.
It's gifable though.
I know, but I could like even tell when she was doing it that she felt awkward doing it. Like she was kind of like, why am I doing this? But I think we talked about this before. Is Cass mentioned it last week. Is that Michelle always has like these kind of like weird, outdated sayings that she does. And this was just kind of like one of them. Like, why this is like such an old thing? Why are you bringing it back?
Stop trying to make Nana happen.
Yeah, like Screen knows like that's my bit.
Yeah, true. I was going to play a game with you guys, but my laptop's at 3%, so I will save the game for next week because it's very savable. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that we have that going. We also have our Twitter up and running. I was going to edit it into this video, so you probably see it at the bottom, but it's at Super Reality Fam, so follow us. You'll get updates on our Survivor recaps. Over the summer, we'll be doing some rewatches and, of course, some first-time watches for me and Cassie, along with Luke and sometimes JC. We're going to find some fun things to do over the summer to podcast about as well, probably weekly. At least weekly, but you never know if we throw some more Big Brother stuff in there. But yeah, it's mainly been shit posting about Survivor on the Twitter that we set up for it. So again, at Super Reality Fam, hit us up. I'll put it into the bio also. But again, if you made it this far, subscribe, send to a friend. And thanks so much if you did make it. We're building a nice little community here, and everyone that joined us for the Big Brother and is still joining us for Survivor recaps and all the brand steals and stuff we have coming, or did and may have coming eventually. We do appreciate it, and it's been really fun so far. And as the season comes to a close, like we're coming up to the finale, I just want to say it's been really fun, and I'm glad we built this little tight-knit community of us plus Cassie and then sometimes Noah. It's really been nice. It's been nice to have, and I'm glad this is the first season we podcasted because it's been really sweet.
Yeah. Super fun to talk about Winners at War.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
But with that, if there's nothing else, thank you so much for watching, everyone. And check us out next week where we have our big finale recap. We also have some more Big Brother 2 content previously on Big Brother coming your way. Otherwise, follow the Twitter. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Hasta.